Well, thank you so much for coming on to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro podcast today. I'm so excited. We have Jeff Evans, a magician. I'm very excited to get into this. Plus, he's promised a little, a show today. A little bit. We'll go through some tricks as well. So that's a good tip if you want to get on the podcast. Is promise to do activities and games and tricks. I think that's very exciting. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Jeff Evans. My company is Amazement Productions, and I've been doing magic full-time since 1998 in the Western Washington area.
I'm very excited for this. I told you before we started, I love magic. We've only had one other magician on. I'm the one, I think 2 years ago, I drugged my wife, Dorothy. We went down to Vegas, saw Chris Angel, front row. I was very excited. So, I mean, I'm really all in, the Copperfield. I remember growing up, with Copperfield and all those Sunday night shows. So I'm very excited today, genuinely, to talk to you and kind of learn all about everything. I think it's fascinating.
When I was growing up, I remember Copperfield would have a special like once a year, right? And you'd stay, I'd put on my calendar, and my buddy and I, we both did magic, and that was the thing that we would watch. And whoa, how did he do that? Yeah.
So something that strikes me, and I want to get into how you got into all this, is as someone that does magic full time, that is something that I think is incredibly difficult, right? Because obviously that means that you're skilled enough and in demand enough and good enough, right, to do that. Because I think plenty of guys or girls, whatever, like do it, on the side. So how did you get interested in all this to begin with?
So all through high school, I was doing magic on the side, and in college, I was doing it more on the side, part-time, evenings and weekends, as much as I could, but it might only be a couple gigs a month or 2 or 3 a month. But even at that time, I knew that I wanted to do magic full-time. I didn't really want to go and work for a company. So at the time, I was living with my folks, so it probably took me a good couple of years to build up enough clients from school assemblies and parks and rec departments, county fairs, the occasional corporate gig, private parties, to be able to actually make a living doing magic. I certainly didn't start right out of college doing magic full time.
But still, I mean, to be going from such a young age, I mean, that's truly, remarkable. Have you ever had like a quote unquote, like a real job, or have you always been like an entrepreneurial person?
I think I'm lucky that I was doing magic as a kid and in high school and college, because it would be really tough to quit a real job to do magic full time. But I haven't had a real job since I was done with college, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I always, we always, put that preface, right? Because certainly, anybody that's supporting it, it's the same with, with video, whatever. But yeah, having that, like, whatever people think of, like, like a day job or like a real job, I think that's incredible. So, early on, what was it about magic that inspired you so much? Because I know a lot of kids, especially like, my age, older, really grew up, like you said, with those, those specials and everything else. It seemed like it was more, and like, even like the David Blaine's of the world, it just seemed like it was a little more in the vernacular for a little while. What was it that inspired you?
Actually, I got started when I was a kid from a book. It was just a book at my grandparents' house on coin tricks, and I still have it. It's like the worst book ever to start learning magic from, because it was written in like the 40s, and so the photos were terrible. It was some serious sleight of hand, and coin tricks are not easy anyway. So I'm trying to learn these. Luckily, then I went to the local library and checked out some books, and those were more kid-friendly. But that's how I got started, was just as a kid. And then I think I was fascinated with learning secrets and wanting to know how things worked. And then the main reason that people enjoy doing magic is the reaction that it gets from people, because some people are amazed, some people laugh, some people get mad. But in fact, I think one of the most interesting things is not watching the magician at a magic show, but watching the reactions of other people, because you'll see it in their faces that some people are so focused on magic. It's just kind of interesting to watch other people watching magic.
Yeah, that's like, my wife is constantly to this day, you could show her any trick in the world and she would be absolutely flabbergasted, would have absolutely no, conceptual of trying to figure out like, how is that done? I think it allows people, just just some fun, some levity. I don't know. I mean, even we've done a couple events where like you know, like a magician's going around and doing like table to table and things, and it's fun. I mean, what day do you wake up and you think I'm going to get to see a magic show today? You know, it's a fun. I don't know. I just think it's a really it's a lost, just interesting thing that people could go to and see. You know.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. Even though people love watching magic, there's not a lot of performers who do magic. And I'm kind of surprised at that. Like I belong to some magic organizations and magic conventions, and over the years there's fewer people going to the magic clubs, and maybe they're all doing it online, and maybe magic in the future is just going to be on Instagram and TikTok, and I don't know, but there's not a lot of competition, other magicians out there, and makes it hard for me to refer, I mean, everyone, all the good magicians are booked on those prime Friday, Saturdays. It's like, who else do you refer work to? It's kind of weird.
Well, like you said, especially with online, I just think like of all the dumb things in the world that like go viral on TikTok or whatever, you would definitely think that, you know, a skilled person doing tricks and whatever on TikTok or Instagram or whatever would be just as engaging as some dumb girl like switching her, you know, like they have those like they change their clothes or, you know, it's like the filters or like, you know, having, I think that, yeah, there's a real, would be a real creative way to get on there to do that. I think, like you said, that could be the future.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, I would go to the magic club and the other performers would say, well, is it practical? You want things that are good from all angles, that you can real world magic that you can do and carry in your pockets and it resets instantly. And now most of the magic that I see is, especially being at home right now, is on social media where those constraints no longer matter. You can do things that's good for just a very specific camera angle. You don't have to worry about people looking over your shoulders or what the setup might be. So it's kind of interesting. I think there's some great magic online that probably wouldn't work in real life, but on video it looks amazing.
So you said you started with coin tricks, and then obviously developed, you know, from the very limited things I did as a kid. I always liked the card tricks and things. I always that was fun. What do you specialize in now, or what are you known for the best that you, or maybe just that you enjoy doing the most?
The only thing I don't do are big illusions. I don't bring my own assistants to my show. I don't have a panel van and I'm unloading big illusions. So everything from close up to stand up magic. And I do things, everything from kids' parties and school assemblies to fairs and festivals and corporate events. In the wedding niche, wedding receptions, it's all close up magic, strolling magic for receptions. And I love doing that because I walk in with my pockets loaded. I don't even bring a table. So I'm literally just working out of other people's hands or a table if it happens to be there. So it's super flexible.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I think people, you know, and they hear like, oh, like a magician, like what is that? I mean, it's really, you know, at the end of the day, it's stand up entertainment, right? And you have your own flair versus, you know, if you had a comedian or if you had a storyteller come in or if you had, you know, someone doing whatever. So it's anywhere, right? Yeah, where you would have, you know, have people congregating around and need to have that entertainment. And I just think it's such a great way. And the weddings, you know, maybe the half dozen that we've done over the years that have had, you know, strolling magician, things like that. The enjoyment that you know, the guests get from, you know, being able to kind of go through that and watch it and see it all go down. I mean, it just can't be overstated how enjoyable that is for something that, you know, could be a little mundane. Okay, we got the cocktail reception here, waiting for the, you know, waiting for the bride and groom to come in or whoever. And then here you have this like real life entertainment that's walking around. I just think it's something that maybe isn't always considered and definitely obviously should be, right? Especially coming from someone that does it professionally.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about magic is it really is good for all ages. I mean, there are some people who maybe don't like magic or feel that it's a mental challenge. Like, I've got to figure out how this is done. But in general, most people, most ages like magic. And it's a great icebreaker because, especially right after the ceremony, when maybe the couple is going to photos, you've got all these people who, a lot of them don't know each other. Maybe they don't know anyone else. They're kind of standing there awkwardly. What are you going to talk about for the next half hour? And so magic is like the perfect icebreaker to get people to gather around and focus on something, and then they'll turn to each other. And again, it's that reactions that they'll say, "Oh my gosh, did you see that? You got to show this to my cousin. Come over here," and that sort of thing.
It really has to be something too where you can really read people right. You have to be, immediately personable, right? You have to be quick on your feet. I mean, there's a lot of like social skills and cues, right? I mean, how is that just? Have you always just been someone that's kind of liked being, not the center of attention in a bad way, but I mean, it really is, right? You need to have certain things. I don't think you can teach people, right, to be able to do that. How did you get into all that?
Actually, that is a great question because knowing how to approach a group is makes a huge difference between people who are maybe upset that you've broken into their conversation as opposed to people who are really curious and welcoming. For 6 months, I worked at a restaurant doing close-up magic, and it was a great. You get a lot of experience because over 2 hours of doing close-up magic for maybe 40 or 50 people, you learn how to break the ice. You know how to look at people, and if they're in an intimate conversation or they're worked up about something, you don't approach them. You go to another group. If people are eating, I don't like to perform while people are eating because then I'm a distraction to their meal, and they can't concentrate on the magic. And a lot of the things that I do, it is interactive where people are picking a card or looking at something or getting their phone out or whatever. So I like to, so the timing is important and how you approach a group is really important. And I don't immediately start by doing magic. If they don't know that there's a magician there, first I'm going to introduce myself and kind of segue and gather the group around, and then we'll get into the magic.
So, you said you got all into this, interested in this, growing up, high school, college, taking the step to do it full time, what was that like? Because obviously this applies, we talk about this with any business, right? It's one thing to be a hairstylist. It's another thing to start, a hair salon, right? Or, do video and start a video service. So what was it, saying, hey, I'm going to be Jeff, I'm going to make this, be a company, do this full time, challenges, things that maybe you didn't anticipate?
I'd say that 50% is being a good magician and 50% is being a good business person. And I learned that I did used to listen to a lot of books on tape on business and marketing. And a buddy of mine who's also a magician, we would bounce ideas off of each other. Hey, are you doing postcard mailings? How are you doing your SEO? That sort of thing. So certainly I've worked with other performers and people on the marketing, but a lot of it's just been trial and error. Like, do I pay $50 a month for a yellow page ad? Obviously not anymore, but that sort of thing. Are Google ads worth it? And interestingly, most of my business comes from word of mouth, people who see me, or referrals and recommendations. For me, it's not the paid stuff, paid advertising.
When starting out, and then obviously it's one thing to be doing like corporate events or, like you said, birthday parties, school activities, kind of trying to break into the weddings and other events like that. What was that like to try? Was it difficult to it might be a difficult pitch to some people, right? Have a magician at your wedding. So what was that like in that learning experience?
So I approach wedding or the venues, whether it's sales and catering, banquet managers, catering managers, directors of catering, those people who are working with the brides and event planners. And then I also try to connect with the wedding planners. Honestly, weddings are a relatively small percentage of the shows that I do. I love doing them. I do several a year. I'd love to do more. So probably I need to do a better job of reaching out to those people, like people who may be watching this program.
Um, well, different things that maybe you would do at a wedding that you wouldn't do otherwise, or are there certain tricks that land better at certain places or another, or is it just depend on kind of the audience and maybe the age range of who's there?
Receptions are really fun because people are there to relax and have a good time, as opposed to maybe a convention where I'm there for the reception, where people are also doing business. They're more in business mode. I have a blast doing receptions because people are there to celebrate.
As someone that's been, you've been doing this a long time, right? I think you said 26 years, right? In your questionnaire, has that always been in the Seattle area? Did you grow up here?
Yeah, I live in Olympia, so I definitely do a lot in Tacoma and Seattle, some down in the Portland area, but mainly Western Washington. For some gigs, for some county fairs during August, I'll take 5 days or a week and head wherever, Idaho. But for the most part, Western Washington.
What things have you seen grow, change? Just almost 3 decades, right, of doing this. Events, everything else. Uh, obviously shifting more online now. I mean, you just have gone through a lot, right, in terms of like the event world and time running the business through, the market crash and everything. We talk a lot of people about that were in business then. What are some things that you've learned about just from running the business and doing stuff in the event industry?
Probably the biggest change marketing wise is social media and websites now are really big. 15 years ago, I wasn't so much into that. It was more doing postcard mailings, and I was really big into networking, in-person stuff like chambers of commerce and organizations, and catering executives, those sorts of groups. And now I've really I really cut back on a lot of the marketing just because I do have quite a few repeat clients. And again, the best way to get more work is to be working. The more you're out there performing and handing out your card, people see what you do, they have a great time. That's really been the biggest thing for me. And then as far as differences in my performing, I've got a lot of little niche markets that I do. So receptions are one. Library programs every summer. There's summer reading programs at libraries in June and July. So I do a bunch of those. Parks and Rec frequently have like events in the park. And so every city does something. Of course, 4th of July, annual celebrations. And then, of course, corporate meetings, conferences, private parties. Everyone's having birthdays. So there's all these little niche things, and just learning how to target to those is important.
Do you think, and I know, like you said, word of mouth is such a big thing, referrals. Do you think the live performing lends more to that? Or obviously, you've been doing this a long time, maybe a little more old school with marketing. And I think a lot of guys and girls, that have been doing it a long time have just built that up naturally anyway. Is it something about doing the live performing that lends more where people see it, they refer it out? Or is it just people know you and they know Jeff's a solid guy, we're going to refer him? Or is it kind of a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. I just find that I kind of make it a goal that for every event that I do, I try and book another event off of it. Of course, it doesn't always work out that way, but that when I go to an event, that's kind of what I'm thinking of, making those connections and planting those seeds.
What are some of the your favorite tricks that you're known for? I know we're going to do some today. If you want to go through any of those, and just I guess when you're developing a trick, what is the mentality behind it? I have no idea even how that works, right? Like, do you have the end goal first? Do you read about it? I mean, how does that work? Kind of trying to figure out a trick.
Well, there's different ways. You might just have an idea in your head and say, how can I make this idea happen, and work at it from that angle? Or you might learn a sleight or discover a prop that you like and then say, okay, what routine can I make using this idea? Or you might see another performer and take ideas from different places and put them together. Or you can also just purchase the rights to, basically just buy a trick from a dealer. Or you can go to magic lectures. They have magic conventions, which are super fun. And I'm kind of sad because this last year they were all online, which is not nearly as fun. Basically, a magic convention is a couple hundred magicians. They're mainly guys, unfortunately, but a couple hundred magicians in a hotel banquet room. They've got a dealer's room, so you get to walk through, and they'll demonstrate all these whatever the newest card trick is, and you get to see it performed, and then you can buy it on the spot if you want. And they have magic competitions where people come in and do their 5 to 7 minute act. They have lectures and seminars. It's just really a blast.
Yeah, I'm always curious about that because I've filmed a couple different magicians over the years, and there are like certain tricks that modified slightly, but repeat sometimes, right? And so I'm always curious, like, well, how does that work? Was that one that was like on sale that a bunch of people bought, or it's always interesting, right? And they obviously they have their own spin on it and they do it differently, and
Right.
it's totally different, but like. Even just in the in this thin slice of things that I filmed and gone through, I'm like, oh, that seems like that's kind of connected. So how does that?
Hmm.
Is it just coincidence, or is it like things that's like the hot trick that people like to do?
There's definitely some of that. And then there's also just classic routines that a lot of people do because they're really good, like the bill in orange. It might be an orange, it might be a lemon, but where you borrow a dollar bill, you light it on fire or rip it up or it vanishes, and then you take out an orange, open it, and the bill's inside. There's different ways. Most of the methods are fairly similar, but there's different ways of presenting it. And the reason that you see a lot of performers do it is that it's really cool. And if you haven't seen it a bunch of times, you're always like, how the heck did my dollar bill with my name on it get inside of that orange or whatever?
Do you like seeing other tricks like that and trying to figure out how they're done, or do you prefer to like let them? I mean, how does your mind work when you see something like that?
Well, because I'm a magician, of course, I always am thinking, how is it done? But it's actually, I love it when something fools me because it doesn't happen as much when you're a magician. So when something does, it's like, whoa, that's really cool. And then I don't want to know how it's done. My mind will be thinking about how it might be done, but I'm happy to just wonder and kind of be in awe.
One of the ones we were talking about, like the repeating, it's like they have the stick figure and the person draws, like they have all the markers and they color the different, like the pant legs is one, right? And then they end up like opening the envelope and they have like 100 of the same, but it's all painted the way that the audience
Isn't
member
that
did.
crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. It's
And
just,
that's one of the things, if I didn't know how it was done, I would watch it and I would never be able to guess. It's just, there's a lot of little things going on.
well, and it's certainly, we're like, I'm filming it. And like, even, if I'm going back and like editing the thing, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good, however they're masking everything, where like, if I'm going back and editing it and trying to like put the video together, if I can't figure that, I mean, it certainly is a remarkable skill.
Right. And by the way, watching things back on video more than once is it's really easy to figure out how stuff is done when you watch it a couple times on video. It's a big difference.
So transitioning, online, doing Zoom stuff. You've said, you're doing a lot more performances online, right? So how is that going, making that transition? And then do you want to get into some of the Zoom things that you're doing? We teased a little
Yeah,
bit. I want to see some of this stuff.
absolutely. What, you mean you just wanted to see a free magic trick?
Yeah, But first off, has it been good? Has it transitioned? Is this a medium that has transitioned well to doing it online this way?
Yeah, I'm really lucky that magic does work online. There's a lot of entertainment that doesn't. So, fortunately, now a lot of times people wonder what's the difference between a live, like over Zoom, like we are right now, as opposed to just watching a YouTube video. And the answer is that we'll be able to interact. So, I'm going to ask you questions, you're going to determine the outcome of stuff. So, magic does work well online. And in some ways, it works better because I've done a corporate gig where the company had an office in Atlanta and one in Seattle. So both of their offices were on the same call. That was really cool. I've done like family get togethers where they had people in Hawaii and California and Oregon, and they all got to see each other and talk to each other. So in some ways, the virtual shows are awesome, things you couldn't do in real life. But in other times, it's awkward because I need to interface with Zoom. So I'm not always looking right at the camera. I've got to look at my other screen. I've got to spotlight certain people. So there's a little bit of tediousness, but fortunately, I'm just happy to be still doing shows.
Well, absolutely. And I think, like you said, the difference between watching it on YouTube versus doing the Zoom, it is night and day. It's the same way, I know that we have Nigel's a bartender. We've had him on the show a bunch, and he does interactive bartending stuff, right? And it's the same idea, well, why would I watch a YouTube video, the guy's making the thing or whatever? Having, in the flesh, via Zoom, the expert there teaching you and interacting. And obviously, with your expertise of, dealing with the social stuff and, asking the questions and stuff. I mean, it's a night and day difference versus like just pulling something up on YouTube and trying to watch like a magic trick or someone cooking something or whatever, right?
Right. So I do have something, and I realized this is going to be great for people watching the video on YouTube or Facebook. It's not going to be good for the podcast people.
That's okay.
So,
Most of our stuff does come from the Facebook video views, so you'll be in
sweet.
good. Yeah, you'll be in good hands. But you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast, and that has all the links to the video stuff as well.
Cool. So what I'd like you to do is, I imagine that last year you were planning on going someplace and that trip was canceled. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'd like you to imagine not necessarily going on that trip, but maybe of a place you might like to visit in the world. But I actually don't want you to think of a place right now. I want you to think of a number between 3 and 15. So think of any number between 3 and 15.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring up a picture of, it's kind of a clock face. Can you see that okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I want you to take your finger and point to where it says start here. And then you're going to move your number. Like, let's say that you were thinking of the number 4, you'd move 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'd end on Las Vegas. But I want you to do that for your number.
Okay.
And anyone watching at home, they can also do this. And everyone's going to end at a different place because you thought of a different number between 3 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to randomize it just a little bit more, I want you to move your same number, starting from wherever you ended up. Move your same number in a counterclockwise direction.
Okay.
And isn't it amazing that in this coming year, we are all going to be staying at home?
I like that. That was good.
It's the saddest magic trick ever.
Yeah.
But I brought a real
No,
thing
that's
for you.
great. I thought that was good. That's funny.
Do you know what this is, or used to be?
No. Like a top of like a purse, like a
Yeah,
coin,
actually, I
a
should
coin
probably
purse.
zoom in a little bit. So
coin
yeah,
purse.
it's the top of a coin purse. It's where
Okay.
magicians carry their money.
Oh wow.
Now, I'm using a 50-cent piece just so it's a little bit bigger. And I always do the gravity check just to make sure it's real money. So if you drop something and it falls down, that's good gravity. If it falls up, that's not real gravity. Oh, I just remembered. I wanted to show you this. When I was growing up, I did Taekwondo, and everyone else learned how to break boards with their fist. And here's what I've learned. I'm going to try and break the coin in half with my finger. Hiya!
That's good.
That's how I got my black belt. I'm wearing it today. So I've got the 50-cent piece. I also have a bunch of other coins in a container. And actually, that's the only 50-cent piece. But I've got some quarters, nickels, a bunch of pennies. And what I would like you to do is take a random guess how much, let me kind of slide this over so you can see it better. How much money do you think all of these coins are worth? Now, I'll give you a hint. It's between $2 and $10. I don't want you trying to zoom in and actually count. Just use your intuition. What do you think these coins are worth?
Okay.
And you can say it out loud.
Like 325 maybe.
$3.25?
Sure.
No way. That's exactly what it's worth. $3.25. Now I have to prove it. Oh, I should probably mention that I've been calling these coins because they look like coins, but actually, this is the mirage of coins.
Wow.
But it was actually $3.25 because after I took this picture, I dumped all the money out and I counted the coins and then I wrote the value on the back. It was $3.25.
That's good. That's good. And I love
Now-
that. I love that you have all the different cameras and stuff too. I mean, it really is doing a good job of selling it, right? As someone that's having the dynamicness of having, you know, the hand camera and the close-up camera. I mean, it really is a good little setup.
Yeah, I do need to have something shooting down so I can do some of the
It's
close-up
great.
stuff.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And having the screen share and everything. I mean, I think it's really good. I mean that. I think it's a really good setup.
Yep, thank goodness for technology.
Yeah.
Now, earlier, right before we started recording, I asked if you had a book or magazine nearby, and
Yep.
you had something. What do you have?
I grabbed a novel from downstairs.
Okay. And what's the name of it?
Chris Jericho. It's just an autobiography.
Okay, perfect. I made a prediction in this envelope, and I don't want it to be like sitting on my desk. So, oh, actually, hold on. I'm going to grab a piece of paper real quick because I need to write down a prediction.
Okay.
But I want you to open your book and see how many pages are in the book.
Okay, so we're looking on here for the number of pages. And Jeff is getting his paper for the prediction.
Okay.
Okay.
And don't tell me how many pages yet, but I'm going to put this back on this banner. Hold up the book. I just want to see it because I need to. Okay. Or you know what? You can tell me how many pages are in the book.
506.
506. I want you to think of a page number between 1 and 506, but don't tell me what page number you're thinking of. Because I'm going to try and read your mind.
Okay.
Do you have a page number in mind?
I do.
Okay. I'm going to use my mind-reading glasses because these always help. All right, just gaze into my eyes. It's actually harder with the glasses to see.
Yeah.
Okay, I am committed. For the first time, what page number are you thinking of?
247.
247, which is crazy. I actually wrote page number 247.
Wow.
So now open the book to page 247.
I don't even know what's on that page.
That's fine. You don't need to.
Okay.
But I want you to find a word that kind of catches your eye for whatever reason.
Okay.
And what is the word?
Adamant.
Adamant.
Yes.
Can you read the sentence that it's in?
Oh,
so we get
geez.
kind of context?
Yes. He was adamant that we shouldn't go out and party.
Okay, perfect. So this has been here before you crack the book open. And just so you know, I am the only one here. I don't have like other people hiding behind the banners, walking around. But before we began the podcast, I wrote one word on a piece of paper, and the word is adamant.
Wow. That's impressive. That's really impressive. I was looking at a bunch of different words too, so that's very impressive.
Yeah. So, and the weird thing is, almost all the things I do in my virtual show, I don't do in my live show. So over this past 8 months, I've come up with a lot of new stuff. It's been kind of cool, actually.
So you've retooled and rejiggered whatever some of the tricks or come up with new things.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few things that I do in my regular show that I do online, but it's different. Different things work well online than work well in real life.
Talk me through that as someone that's been doing this so long, knowing that you're, not stuck in this medium, but you're able to use this medium, right? Zoom is different. How do you go about, is it just the one dimensionality of it, or is it, what changes where you're trying to develop a trick for this? Like, how does your mind work differently to do something on this?
Well, for one thing, I don't have to worry about lugging equipment in, so I can set up my room just the way I want. So what you can't see is I've put in kind of a grid over my head so I can hang lights or move things, or if I wanted to hang a microphone different. And it's actually fairly big. So like if I wanted to do something bigger, I can, and I've got some bigger props. So that's one nice thing. The other nice thing is that I can have plenty of things just in reach. I can reach over and grab props. I've definitely invested in some lighting and cameras. I've got 3 cameras that I could use.
Has it been, are you excited for a challenge like that? I mean, I know it's hard, right? And with COVID and everything and shutdowns and, pivoting, right? That's kind of the word of the day, with photographers and videographers too, is like pivoting, right? How can we take something that we used to do? Maybe we were really comfortable, even kind of stuck in our ways for a lot of people, right? Kind of like, oh, I go shoot all these weddings every year. I don't even think about it. Does that excite you to have to pivot and find new things like this to do, or was that really challenging for you to work through?
It's actually been fun. I'm enjoying doing some different things. But don't get me wrong, I love doing the in-person shows because I have done a couple of small private parties for like a family that was having a birthday or something. And just it's so much easier performing in real life. But there are some nice things like I can easily share video like at a touch of a button. I can do that stuff. I can share photos. Like I did actually put some photos of wedding type stuff.
That's great.
So it gives you some other options that you might not be able to easily do in person too.
So, when you're not performing and doing magic, I want to hear about kind of the man behind, right? In the background, right? Like Wizard of Oz or whatever. What do you do, when you're not performing, when you're not, doing magic?
I love doing things outdoors, like kayaking, hiking, cycling,
Stay,
even in the nasty weather. Yeah, I went kayaking over the weekend and
and as someone that is from the Pacific Northwest, that grew up here, obviously, you're proud to call home. You said you enjoy traveling around and seeing all the different areas of the, the west side of the state and then otherwise, right?
yeah, in fact, one of the cool things about getting to perform is visiting all these little towns that otherwise I never would have been to, especially when I'm doing like school assemblies or county fairs. A lot of times they're in little towns that are like, small population, maybe Northeast Washington that I would never have gone on a vacation, but I get to see these places. And actually that's one of the things I love doing.
What do you wish more people knew, about the services you offer, about the things that you do? That you obviously you're on here to, not only share about yourself, but kind of convey what you do. What do you wish more people knew about, live, stand-up magic, different options and things you can offer, things that they should be thinking about if they're looking at like an event coming up?
Sure. The reason I actually put together a bunch of still photos and I'm going to bring some of these up. And even if you're just listening to the podcast, that's okay. Cause I'm just kind of using these to jog my memory. So this picture shows it's the reaction. The reason that people love doing magic is for the reaction that it gets from people. And I love doing close-up magic because it happens right in people's hands. It's totally different than watching something, on YouTube or even from a stage. When you're doing close-up magic, I work totally from my pockets. I'm not carrying around a table. I'm not bringing a suitcase with me. Literally, it's just me and my suit and tie and my pockets loaded with several decks of cards and coins and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, tons of props, tons of fun interactivity.
Oh, another thing I should mention is that, it really is great for all ages. Kids, teenagers, even teenagers that maybe normally are not going to like the band or aren't going to want to play the wedding games, they love magic. Like I love doing high school grad parties or college shows because that age they just are really fascinated by magic, as long as it's done well. Yep, so that's,
I love it.
yeah.
One question I had, and not to, don't want to throw anyone under the bus. I'm always curious about it. Have you ever had any tricks go wrong or not the way that you were anticipating? And is that a good thing because it keeps you on your feet, or how does that work? I'm always curious.
Oh, absolutely. That always happens. In fact, it happened in the trick that I just did for you earlier. I know that when you go back and watch the video, you're going to see a couple little mistakes. So that happens all the time. You just keep going.
Is does that excite you? Just the unpredictability of it, and especially maybe if you're out in the crowd and you have some people and maybe they don't want to play along, right? Or maybe they're trying to like sabotage the trick, right?
Oh, sure. There's a lot of dynamics with audiences because when you pick someone, you don't know how they're going to react. So there's always an unknown. And I think the kids are the biggest unknown because they have no filter. Well, I guess at a wedding, if they've been drinking, they've got no filter either. But yeah, it adds kind of the wild card item. That makes it interesting and fun. It's every show is different.
Any memorable stories about that, or anything else to share before we go? Anything that was, again, not that you don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but just like memorable near mishaps, anything like that?
This was not at a wedding reception, but I used to do a trick where I would borrow a woman's ring and supposedly clean it, and then it vanishes and reappears in this locked box. And one time I borrowed a woman's ring, and when I give it back to her at the end, the stone was missing. Fortunately, it was not an expensive ring, so I paid her for it. But that was one of those moments where when she said that, what do you say? It's like, well, we both looked around, but apparently the stone had been loose. And fortunately, it was not like an expensive item, but
yeah, but like
that's probably why I don't do that trick anymore.
Yeah, right. Well, this has been fun. This has been so fun. I'm glad to see the tricks and everything. Like I said, I do mean it where I say that this definitely works in this medium, right? As someone, if pivoting here and trying to figure out new things, I definitely think that this has been a good sales pitch, right, for how the Zoom, magic works, right? And it's a good showcase for you. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we let you go today?
Yes, I wanted to show you my favorite Mirage.
I'm ready.
Got it right here.
Okay.
Can you see what that's worth?
$20.
Yep. So I'm going to use just bills, but whatever bills I've got, I'm going to use. Okay, so I've got all 20s today. I've got 20, 40, 60, 80 bucks. This is my favorite Mirage. Now, if anyone watching is law enforcement, maybe close your eyes for the next 5 seconds, because I don't know that this is totally legal. Now, do you invest? Do you have money in stocks or?
Yeah.
Do you have any cryptocurrency?
I do.
You do? Yeah. Okay, then you're advanced. That's good.
Okay.
So this is my retirement plan. Okay. I don't have fancy IRAs and stuff. This is what I do. And I don't know that it's legal, but it's been working out really well. Oh my gosh, it just worked again. So 100, 200, 300, $400. I'm rich.
That's great. You're killing it.
And so this is in my real show. Maybe you've seen other magicians do it. It's really popular.
No, but so you called that a mirage, not like an illusion.
You can call it whatever you want.
Well, I'm just curious. Yeah, that's interesting to me. That
I mean, they are real $100 bills. And of course, when I do it in real life, people want to grab them and touch them and check them, and they can. But I can't let people keep them because it might burn a hole in their pocket. Because if you have a lot of money, it burns a hole in your pocket. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Whoa. All right, take it easy.
That's awesome. What a way.
Yeah, so it kind of.
That's great.
It combines the virtual magic and the live magic.
I love it. What a climax to end on. That's awesome. Well, good job. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for taking the time and putting together. I know that you do some of these anyway, but thank you so much for taking the time to put everything together to show today. I really appreciate that. So, because I know that I appreciate people that prepare for the podcast. That's very much appreciated. So, thank you.
It was awesome meeting you. I hope that we get to work a gig together in real life sometime.
If people want to learn more about you, the magic, obviously the Zoom magic, everything else going on, where would you have them check out?
Sure. My website is amazementproductions.com. And if you're on social media, you can find me at Jeff Evans Magic.
Perfect. We'll leave that up. We'll do the ending and I'll take a photo here before we go. If you're like Jeff and you're a wedding vendor that's interested in coming on the podcast, we do these each and every week. you can go to bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. That's a nice, easy way to reach out to me, get you in the system. I know that you got referred from Alan. I appreciate that. But we're always looking for new vendors to spotlight on here. And the weeks that we don't have a new guest, we re-feature an old guest. So it's definitely, I would encourage you to reach out to come on. And Jeff, thank you so much again. And I hope you stay safe and everything works out.
Thank you. I had a blast.
Awesome. Thanks.